I'm glad to have the interview today with Jason Greenblatt. He's former White House envoy to the Middle East. How are you, Mr. Greenblatt?
I'm well, thank you for asking, and it's a pleasure to be here with you.
I have many questions. Some of this question is on your career and the others about current affairs. So let me start about what Politico magazine described you as Trump's advisor on Israel. Why it was Israel, but I know you were envoy to the Middle East.
So I worked for President Trump for 20 years in the private sector. He knew me, he trusted me, he knew my knowledge about Israel was very, very strong, and he wanted to engage me as well as his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and David Friedman, who became the US ambassador to Israel, because he knew we knew the file. But at the same time, because he wanted to work on peace between Israel and the Palestinians and Israel and its Arab neighbors, those can't be separated from being an Israel advisor. So we brought all these things together and learned about the file in an effort to bring peace.
You said for the Jerusalem Post that the settlements are not an obstacle to peace. What do you mean by that?
So first of all, I don't like using the word settlements. Let's call them what they are. They're cities, they're neighborhoods, they're towns where families live, where there are schools, where people play in the parks. These neighborhoods existed, many of these neighborhoods, certainly not all of them, existed way before. There was never peace in that region in what some call the West Bank and I call Judea and Samaria. And one of the best examples is the Gaza, right? Israel actually uprooted all of these cities and neighborhoods. And what did they get in return? They got rocket fire, they got terror tunnels, they got balloons with, explosive devices flying over into Israel. I'm not saying that the discussion isn't necessary about what is happening there, but at the same time, there are many, many causes and issues that have to be handled way before that. I think it's a false statement to say that that's the reason there's no peace.
Yeah. There is a criticize for you on another Jewish publication. It says Jason Greenblatt has a new job dealing with the Middle East as a businessman rather than peace builder. What is your mandate on this task?
So I don't view it as a criticism. I think they were following my career after the White House. And what I'm still trying to do is build what I call a Middle East 2.0, where I bring together Israeli and American companies to do business in the Gulf. I started it before the Abraham Accords. My company is actually called Abraham Venture. And I found even before the Abraham Accords, there's tremendous interest in the Arab world and Israel working together. I wish it could include the Palestinians, but the Palestinians are unfortunately unwilling to participate in that.
How do you see the braveness in the leadership of UAE doing this Abraham Accord, signing the Abraham Accord in a very, very sensitive moment?
I think Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed deserves unbelievable credit. I mean, sure, President Trump, of course, and Bibi Netanyahu, but actually all of the leaders, the King of Bahrain, the King of Morocco, His Royal Highness in the UAE, really brave, courageous, bold, and they did the right decision. They did the right decision for their people, for Israelis, and for the region entirely. And the United States benefits from that. The whole world benefits from that.
You wrote an article for Newsweek. You said Saudi Arabia is an indispensable Middle East ally for the United States. Can you elaborate more on what you wrote?
So I was deeply troubled by President Biden's remarks about Saudi Arabia and the Crown Prince during the campaign. I'm also still remain deeply troubled by how they treat Saudi Arabia during the administration. I think they don't give Saudi Arabia the respect that they deserve. Saudi Arabia is a key figure in the Arab world, in the Muslim world, in the Middle East. Its stability is important to the region. It's a strong friend and ally of the United States. And I think we ought to do more to respect Saudi Arabia and also respect the kingdom's plans, the Crown Prince's plans, his Vision 2030.
Yeah, what do you think about it and the evolution happening there?
Oh, it's unbelievable. When I went there in 2017, I don't want to say I was uncomfortable, but it was a different world. And with each visit, including many visits after I left the White House, the changes are exciting. The people, my friends in Saudi Arabia, are so excited about the vision. I give him tremendous credit, and I wish him and the kingdom well in this plan.
You were in Saudi Arabia inside the plane on the driveway of an airport, but you had to leave the plane or step back because of a threat from the Houthis. Is that correct?
Yes. So I'm probably one of the handful of individuals in the world who has had to leave areas because of rocket fire toward Israel and toward Saudi Arabia, and they share a common threat. They are terrorists who are funded by Iran. In the case of Israel, it's Hamas in Gaza. In the case of Saudi Arabia, it's the Houthi terrorists. By the way, it's a mistake for the United States to have removed the label terrorists from the Houthis. But I was on the plane with my son. We were going to fly from Riyadh to Jeddah, and we had to get off the plane because rockets were being launched towards the airport.
Do you think, in your opinion, the Biden administration will sign a deal with the Iranians?
Oh, it would be, unless it's a good deal, a strong deal, and there's no indication whatsoever that that's the case, it would be a huge mistake. I think it's embarrassing for the United States the way they're negotiating. They're not even speaking to the Iranians directly. They have to be filtered through the European Union. The European Union is not on the same page as America. We should be listening to our allies and friends in the Middle East, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Qatar, everybody. And the Europeans should not be negotiating on our behalf. It's a very, very dangerous proposition what the Biden administration is doing.
Mm-hmm. What do you say about the new investment agreement between Turkey and UAE?
I think it's smart. I think the region is realizing that they're better, stronger together. I think it's better for the entire world when the tensions between the Gulf and some of its regional allies or partners or countries is lower.
Mm-hmm. The National Security Advisor, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed of UAE was in Iran, and he met with top officials in Iran. How do you see this rapprochement?
Look, it's an uncomfortable thing to see, certainly after the UAE and Israel signed the Abraham Accords, but at the same time, I respect what the UAE has to do. They live in a tough neighborhood. They need to worry about their own national security, and engagement is always better than non-engagement. So I won't say that I'm happy about it, but I respect it, I understand it, and frankly, if I was on their leadership team, I would probably support that move.
The Newsweek magazine said Syria accuses Israel of attacks as Assad's top diplomat joined senior UAE official in Iran. Can you elaborate more on this issue?
Look, Syria is a failed state. What's happened, the tragedy that's happened in Syria over the last years, the deaths, it's horrific, and the world should be paying more attention to it. There's nothing that comes out of the Syrian regime that I really trust or understand or believe. I think they should focus on getting their people back, getting their lives back in order, and stopping this terrible devastation that happened to the Syrian people.
Mm-hmm. My last question, Jason, a report by CNN, what the world could learn from Israel's COVID-19 vaccine booster rollout. How do you see this success, if we can say?
Well, I think it was a remarkable success. I think there are other countries that have also done very well, and I think we should be paying attention. I think in my country, in the United States, we're not doing a great job. That's not a criticism of President Biden. I think that nobody quite understands it, and I'm not for lockdowns again, but I think we ought to be more careful. I'm surprised that there's no testing. There's limited testing that's available. Hopefully that'll change soon. But I think we need to pay attention to countries like Israel who have managed this crisis successfully and learn from them.
Jason Greenblatt, thank you so much for joining me on the Capital TV show. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hey, Maria Malouf here. Please click to like and subscribe to Maria Malouf TV YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.